Okay, so I think we are live. At least it should. And, when we have all these moving parts, it's always a bit of challenge. So we are so pleased to welcome everybody. It's really a pleasure to have our community to join us for this short, webinar, presentation webinar. Maybe also time to change the background as we are live, where we're going to use more or less 1 hour of your time, of your precious time, to introduce you to a project that essentially us busy, kept us busy for the last year, more or less. So Stina, let's introduce ourselves very quickly. Maybe I'm Simone, CEO of Boundaryless, also the editor of this white paper that today you're gonna discover together with us.
And I'm Stina Heikkilä. I'm research coordination lead at Boundaryless, and I've been coordinating this research project that has now become a white paper.
Right. And so let's add this to the stream, and Stina, I leave it to you to guide us a little bit through the steps. I will move the slides for you.
Okay, so first of all, this is who we are. I leave it to you, Simone, to introduce.
Right. I'm taking this responsibility. So, I mean, Boundaryless, I think our followers know that it's more or less a company that is focused on really exploring the future, the edge, the future of organizing and of business model innovation. Essentially, we do that by creating these collaborative open frameworks and by helping our community of adopters and both large companies, small organizations, individual entities to explore together the challenges that a more complex world, as we will also see in details today, brings on the table. And we help with these tools, with the language that these tools create and the conversations that with these tools facilitate. We help these organizations, teams, and individuals to make sense and to align their vision and the strategies with the strategies and the visions and the expectations of their reference ecosystems. And also we have this key idea of our practice is that as a company, as an individual, as an organization, you now have to mobilize, you have to integrate, you have to create these whole systems, and this is what we do with our tools and with our services. So with regards to our methodology, I would say that maybe we can mention three major pieces that we have been developing in the last 5 or actually 7 years. The Platform Design Toolkit is probably the most famous at the moment. It's a methodology that has been used by essentially more than 70,000 people all over the world, and more than 60 companies and organizations together directly with us. We have been training more than 1,000 people worldwide, both live and remotely. We've been doing these classes from New York to London, Paris, whatever, Barcelona. I don't remember now. So many cities. And also the Platform Opportunity Exploration Framework is part of our methodology, is complementary, and I would say gives the practitioners a full spectrum methodology when it comes to designing their platform strategies. The business model innovation strategies is very grounded, has been used by thousands of people. Large organizations have been integrating this into their innovation practice, all over the world. So it's very stable, I would say, something that you really can use to envision your platform strategies. The latest addition to the set of tools that we are developing is the EEO Toolkit, and this is a framework to develop what we call the entrepreneurial ecosystem enabling organization. So to some extent, it's a way to connect our theory of markets with our theory of organizations, and has been one of the focuses of our work in the last couple of years, and it's really giving us now this capability to see through the connection between the market, society, and the organization. So as you will see also, this is one of the key chapters of this white paper that we're going to discuss quickly today. very interesting work. Follow that because it's going to be massively important for your organization to transform into this ecosystemic way.
Should we invite our special guest, or you want to say a few words?
Right. That's a good moment to invite our special guest. So Gianmarco is here with us. Gianmarco Salcioli, Global Head Strategic Marketing at Intesa Sanpaolo. Thanks for your time, Gianmarco. As our listeners know, Intesa was our white paper sponsor. I'm so excited to have you with us today because it doesn't happen every week to meet such a visionary management and such a visionary organization. So thanks very much for being with us today. We're looking forward to hear from you a couple of words on why you felt that doing this work, supporting this work was important.
Thanks very much to you, Simone, Stina, and Tim. I'm very glad to be here today with you, and this is a very important event. Just a few words why we sponsored the paper and what is happening. I promise to be short, hopefully sweet. I joined Market a couple of years ago. I just promise I'm not going to get through my CV. I spent many years, maybe too many years, in the banking industry, let's say in trading and sales all around the globe, especially in English and American banks. I can say that I've lived so many different seasons and cycles. I lived all the crises since 1992. It's not my fault anyway. And there are so many banking cycles. But the actual competitive scenario, the environmental developments, and the emergency situation we are all living are forcing us to change significantly the business strategic guidelines and plans and actions for the future. And for the future, us is next 3 months. This is going to be short term. And it's going to change significant impact even our values and principles. The main threat banks are facing, us and in general, are related to two main risks. First is disintermediation. Many players are entering into the banking scenario, but they are not bankers. More than half, it's impressive, this kind of number, more than half of the lending provided worldwide is not done anyway by banks, no more by banks. And there are entire parts of businesses challenged by, let me say, other non-banking institutions. And we are not talking about the fintechs, which are the usual suspects for stealing business from banks. This is not the case anymore. This is putting downside pressure on our profits and margins, but this is going to threaten the bank's presence in certain markets, products, and even geography. Disintermediation is like this. Can you see it? No? It's like the weakest link in the chain. This is going to be disintermediation. It holds. It seems to hold unless it breaks, and then it's game over. It's too late for any action or reaction. Anticipation is not a choice anymore. Second point, a complete change of scenario. We are moving from a hyper-regulated world in the banks space on capital requirements, transparency rules, systemic risks, to a new world where reputation, social responsibility, and market effects on profits and products, and integrity on the organizational structure come first, then law, regulation, and fines. So the question is, are we entering a new era of capitalism where the maximization of the profit is not going to be the only goal for evaluation of a living enterprise? I don't have the answer. My hope, personal hope, is yes. So last point, we have mentioned risks, threats. Since I am in charge of the strategic market, I need to turn everything into a constructive view, no? Because these are features and characteristics of our new world, and we need to turn them into opportunities. Oh, this is nice to say, but how can we do it? Thinking lateral, outside the box, embracing a new culture of change ESG friendly, but really ESG friendly, where people in networks can translate big transformative visions into concrete actions. Before I leave you, let me say that I have the pleasure and honor to conduct the first experiment in our bank because I'm coordinating the SCIB team on ESG. This is a very concrete experiment where there is no hierarchy. The relationships are interfunctional, and the functioning is holistic. So it is supposed to be a real holistic ecosystem, how we should call it. And I can tell you that it's extremely difficult to change the culture of reacting, because it is a network of 50 people trying to change their minds. But we must admit, and this is the reason why we sponsor the paper, we don't have the DNA expertise, the knowledge and the added value, and in such cultural transition. We need to outsource and to be held by professionals like Simone, like his team, like you, and to join new networks that are completely different from the usual networks that banks have, that can teach us and show the way to be more open, flexible, proactive, and innovative in designing, thinking the organization of the future. Again, grazie Simone, Stina and his team. Wish you and us all the best in our newly formed partnership. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gianmarco. And let me say that really my pleasure to work with Intesa. It's and also I want to say thanks to the rest of your team. It's really, I think, a company and a team that is willing to face the reality of the changes that expect our organizations wholeheartedly, embracing them and playing with them. And this is something that we really want to suggest to all the companies out there. You really need to engage with these changes that are coming. The changes are profound, but every organization can become a force of change. So thanks very much, Gianmarco, and I'm looking forward to catch up after this. So thank you. Okay. I'm removing you from the stream now. Okay, so now, Stina, I'll leave it to you. I'm going to start again projecting the slides. And, well, maybe let me say just a couple of words before that about why this new white paper. So essentially, it's really a matter of, sorry, I see Gianmarco in the background. I need you to mute you, sir. Okay. So basically, as I said, the question is why this new white paper? We released our first white paper in 2016 together with the Platform Design Toolkit 2.0 at that time. Platform Design Toolkit existed already, since 2013 as a fork of the business model Canvas first, and then as pretty much a community project. And we packaged this in a way that was really usable for people. And we also shipped this white paper originally in 2016, sponsored by Swift, called from business modeling to platform design. And this really contributed to create this practice. So I mean, we have been dealing with tons of copycats and people that have been inspired by our work, people that have been stealing our work, but it's fine. I mean, it was exciting to be part of this wave of transformation, of this wave of reinventing the design practices around ecosystems, around multi-sided networks. And but the fact that basically in 2019 we started to feel that our work was a bit out of context, as I said often. We felt that there were at least three major areas where we lacked the understanding, and we lacked the capability to project the understanding of these emerging areas into how you design organizations, business models, and innovate. So the three spaces that we were really interested to explore were the spaces of technology, essentially what we call the technosphere is, and biosphere, so all the impacts that we have been seeing in terms of environmental transformations, environmental impacts, climate change, ecosystem failures. We live through this every day now. It's on the agenda of everyone. So we wanted to catch up with that. We wanted to understand what was happening. And finally, the cultural elements. We have been living through a massive transformation of our cultural sphere. We have been living through, as we will see, massive waves of restructuring of decision-making and governance, mimetic tribes emerging, culture wars. So this is something we cannot anymore consider the backdrop of our traditional organizing. That was the assumption, and we are using here, and we have been using this all over the white paper work we've been doing. We have been using the point of view of Lisa Gensky, a dear friend and a former an advisor and a former and a co-founder of Boundaryless. Actually, she helped us to, as we will see later on, I would say, walk through these questions with this framework, this idea of no more and not yet. So this idea of understanding what was, what part of our organizing, what context in our society were on, in a trajectory of disappearing, and what new things were emerging from the future, essentially. So we are stuck into this moment. We are lost in this paradox between the no more and the not yet. But this is the place where we are. This is where our organization needs to be recasted into a new cultural, a new organizational culture, a new business innovation culture. And of course, this has been a crazy journey. Here, I'm going to leave it to you, Stina, to say a couple of more words. You're on mute.
Oh, sorry. So we want to say a couple of words of the journey, because as you can imagine, we launched this research project in January 2020, and it was before we knew how much our life would actually change in this period. So I would say that this exploration has been a really fascinating and crazy time. But so if you can move to the next slide, please. So what I would say is that we have adopted and adapted new frameworks along the way. And we've been trying to build in parallel a community around our research. And by publishing regular research updates since more or less January this year, and also starting a podcast where we have interviewed thought leaders from marketplace and platform spaces, but also business innovation, systems thinking, complexity theory, a very wide range, even touching on regeneration and, of course, decentralized organizing. We have been trying to keep up with pace with what is happening in the world. So these are just some of the outputs that we have produced along the way. And we invite you to, of course, check out the Boundaryless Conversation podcast. And you can find back the episodes that we have produced since March this year. On top of that, we wanted to go one step further, because as also resonating with what Gianmarco said previously, the world is changing, and we need to be connected to the ecosystem. And we wanted to really engage in communication with people who are following our work. So what we did was to launch monthly calls where we discussed the research updates that we published, and we invited people to come and spend some time with us and reflect together. And now, Simona, you want to show a little taste of this, just so that you understand the kind of atmosphere that we had in these meetings.
We were looking at, with regard to health, we were sort of having a discussion around, that there's a lot of fragmentation happening, especially right now during COVID times, where things are kind of really shifting towards these kind of local communities that are reacting and trying to respond to changes. So we're seeing a lot of kind of fragmentation happening, and then perhaps that means there's a lot of duplication or replication of efforts happening.
So just to give you an idea of the amazing community, and I hope many of you are watching. So we're, again, grateful for all the engagement that we've had throughout this journey. So since we felt that this was, we wanted to share our preliminary findings even further. You can move to the next slide. We also decided to host in the middle of the summer a one-day sense-making session where we invited everyone that we had on the podcast so far, including others that we wanted to have with us, and of course the sense-making community that we mentioned, into this one-day conference where we had keynote panels, we had a fishbowl, and we had hands-on workshops organized by people from our community. And this was really a fun and, again, a new way for us to engage because of the restrictions caused by the pandemic. We had to, of course, do it online, and this allowed us to reach, all different continents. And it was a crazy day and really fun. You can find all the videos on our YouTube. And again, we're going to give you a little teaser of what this was like.
We cannot be practicing that kind of hyper focus on the customer when we are designing big platforms and when we are looking into kind of ecosystemic design.
4 months or 5 months has been also a way for us to confront with our own idealism in a way. I think that a lot of the things that we were praising as promises for the future, they started to fall apart.
We have to focus on right now is that we're seeing the development of a new social decision-making system, the one that's going to be transformational. It's not what we want, it's what is, it's what's happening. It's what you have to deal with, what you have to work with, and you have to transform it, you have to shape it in a way that actually yields positive development.
Most of our work in production thesis is still organized through the thesis of management, and management, you could quite comfortably draw a line between management and the rule of kings in a very linear way, missing out the whole thesis of democracy quite comfortably.
Right.
And when you sort of take that line, I think what I would want to put forward is that we have reached a limit in that system, and it's actually fundamentally limiting our capacity to see the world.
So
well, it was just exciting to be able to listen again to some of our speakers, and thanks very much everybody that may be connected now. So really thanks.
So this is setting the stage for what we have done in this, trying to be a collaborative research project, let's say, whereas we have also been, of course, heads down in the research. So now I'm going to hand over to you, Simone, to walk everyone through the key ideas that emerge in the paper so that they will feel excited to go and download it after the session.
Right. Before we move on, I would like to just share with you, am I supposed, if I'm not wrong, that was the moment we were supposed to share this, right, Stina? Help me to remember. But, we made a quick, let's say, short film about the journey that we had. And we're going to stream this film. It's 8 minutes, just after the presentation. So I'm going to share with you now a segment of this movie, 1 minute and a half, something like that, where we put together many voices that have contributed to this research through podcasting, for example. So I'm going to stream now a couple of minutes of that. If you are interested, stay tuned. We're going to stream it in Premiere after this introduction. Otherwise, you can find it on our YouTube website.
Anything that we care about, anything that forms societies is going to be digitized, is going to be touched by the efficiency that these interfaces bring. And therefore, understanding how they work and why they work is critical to almost any job that we have, no matter where we sit in the economy. And I think while that will be, it'll play out in different places at different times, I think taking that approach and that attitude to realizing it's going to touch everything, I think is the best way to begin the experiment of trying to understand what's about to happen over the next 20 years.
As you start to be able to transact more readily in a digital context, you start to see market-based transactions where you used to have only firm-based transactions.
Okay, so that was just a very short segment, as I said, to pruning your interest, I would say, for the video. And again, we're gonna stream it at the end.
Yeah, just a note. I think because we have some misalignment here with the background, it seems that the screen sharing is covering a bit of our background.
Right.
I think you can put me in the backstage at the moment when you do the presentation, so that we probably get a better experience.
Cool. So let me do that. Let me see if I can stream in a way that you can. No, I mean, that's not gonna solve the stuff. So I'm gonna ask you to be with me again. So I mean, our listener, our participants know that we are announcing the white paper. So as long as we use the slides, that's gonna be there. Okay, so very quickly, let's try to go through the major outcomes of this white paper. So let's try to share with you, chapter by chapter, the major insights that are captured into the white paper. So there are several aspects in this white paper work. I would say we have 4 major chapters and a final reflection in the paper. The first chapter, it's really about catching up with what we define the marketplace pervasivity thesis. So what do we see essentially in markets? And we captured this through conversations with thought leaders, desk research, and trend analysis. We see a massive penetration of the marketplace pattern into the space of organizing. So essentially, as you remember maybe from the excerpt that we played from the movie, Rita McGrath is very efficient in explaining this. It's a matter of transaction cost plummeting. We were used to have firms organizing value creation, value production. Increasingly, we are seeing market-based transactions. Marketplaces are pervading everything. And the directions that they are following in this pervasivity are essentially the directions of more verticalization, so more niche marketplaces. The age of large marketplaces that can serve huge industries is pretty much over. There are some of them, but the new space of marketplace organizing is about niches. It's about vertical organizations, vertical opportunities, and more managed and going more into the B2B space. What does it mean managed? It means that the marketplace operators, they control much more of the experience that you have with a marketplace in these new cases. They control much more, they oversee more of the experience, they invest more capital, sometimes they select the providers, they vet them, they provide to the providers tons of great services to help the providers focus on what they are good to do, what they are interested to do. So a good example is Miro, this photographer platform that allows photographers to really focus on what they do, taking pictures, great photos, and then gives them these support services in post-production, for example, or in lead generation, and so on. Another big point here is that policy making is going to be a massively important topic of the next few years. And in the paper, you will see references to the work, for example, of Ben Thompson or Ben Evans. They have been exploring this in the last few months, and also Sanjit Choudhary that spoke with us largely about this idea of policy makers confronting platforms, and the point here is as we enter what Mark Andreessen calls the age where the internet goes out of its infancy. So we enter an age of internet maturity. Internet is going everywhere, and connecting the world has consequences. And the policymakers all over the world are now looking into these consequences. We are seeing massively, for example, regional policymaking conflicts. You will recall the GDPR, but this is happening everywhere. And increasingly, the internet is no more such a simple space to play. It's a place that especially because of the penetration of the internet in such a massive amount of important processes, key processes, is going to be subject to more heavily regulatory attention, and that's a point. we also provide a new tool in the white paper. It's a kind of a map to help you to map where you are, if where your marketplace of interest or your ideas fit into this space, into this space that puts together both the evolutionary aspects. It puts together also the need to, for example, develop certain organizational capabilities and differentiators when you approach with a certain marketplace, a certain market opportunities. And it's also very important to explain, and the white paper does that, to explain how the nature of the properties of the networks that your marketplace firm it's addressing implies, I would say, some organizational choices that you need to take in terms of, for example, profit and loss distribution on a more local scale or more category-based scale. In terms of how do you grow your marketplace, pushing more your capabilities at the edge of the system, or maybe centralizing into attraction, search engine optimization, and customer acquisition. And here we build on the insights of people like, Casey Winters, for example, that has been doing so important work on this space, but many others. I don't want to just mention one because it would be really not fair for the massive amount of experts that we have been leveraging on the white paper that you will all find into the references. So this white paper is going to give you something to read for probably the next 2 years, if not more. Then another key topic of conversation on the paper is in chapter 2, and it's about these how the new risk perspectives and how this new governance landscape is unfolding. So we try to move from in the second chapter, we try to move from being focused on the specific, I would say, of building your marketplace into, looking at the big picture. So like zooming out a little bit and say, okay, I'm building a marketplace, but what is happening in the background? And this was one of the massive starting point of this white paper research. And it was really about zooming out. When we started to think about this in June last year, we said, guys, we really need to zoom out. We need to really understand what the hell is happening at social level, at the narrative shift level, because otherwise we just be kept into the mechanics and technicalities of building perfect marketplaces, but we don't capture the shifts that are transforming the world in the meantime. And this is a chapter where we really try to address what is happening in terms of social transformations, environmental ones, cultural flows. We have been immersed into these the way that social media, for example, has been reacting to the pandemic has been crazy. We have seen, for example, people organizing through social networks to provide open source medical supplies, where in the meantime, the standard, I would say, the bureaucratic structures that run our society were failing so hard, because they were so brittle and they couldn't face this complexity unfolding into the pandemic. And we also learned that the internet is now the place where massive waves of consensus and dissent confront each other in more than the traditional political spectrum. And we are seeing this, for example, in the US election, but I'm sure also all over in other places in the world, how these new mechanics are unfolding. And no organization is an island. We need to understand that. We need to integrate. We need to understand this complexity. We need to resonate with this complexity. And so this chapter is really a deep dive into these elements. The third chapter is probably the most interesting for organizational developers and designers, and it's massively around our latest research into what we call the entrepreneurial ecosystem enabling organization. this is the I would say the result of a couple of years of deep work and collaboration with, for example, a global leading firm in organizational transformation, a Higher Group from China. But it's also about many organizations we have been talking with and interviewing and discovering, lately, like Zappos, for example, or Burzorg, or many others that tend to be organized in new ways, in ways that are much more about empowering outside-in innovations to shape the organization, are much more about unbundle otherwise very siloed organizations into networks of micro-entrepreneurial units that rapidly coalesce and reorganize around opportunities very quickly. So it's really about what Dave Snowden calls contextually aware solutions that emerge and adapt in relationship with a more coherent idea of organizing. So in this chapter, you will really understand how now the most challenging aspect of organizing in the 2020s is to create a case, I would say, for entrepreneurs to join your organization and not just a venture outside. So massively challenging. It's about transforming our organizations into networks, making a case for a coherence and building what Snowden calls internal scaffolding. So think about organizations that have an internal scaffolding versus the ones that have an external one, and that tends to be very easily, to break very easily when changes happen, when exponential changes happen. So this is about the entrepreneurial ecosystem enabling organization. And these organizations are really, really powerful because they can play the full spectrum of organizing. They don't just play the micro-entrepreneurial spectrum, but they also play functional elements. They also play aggregated, more integrated elements. So really, dive deep into the chapter to understand how organizations of the future that are more able to rhyme with complexity at the multi-layered scales are being built today. It's not a matter of the future. This is how some protagonists of the economy are working already, and your organization can't be left behind. So finally, more or less, on chapter 4, we go more into the technicalities of analyzing how these macro trends that we've been touching all over the white paper impact the very value chains that characterize the organizing through platforms. So we have, as the followers, our followers may know, we have a very solid practice based on Simon Wardley's maps, integrated with our theory of platforms in what we call our unified market theory. And all this unified market theory is based on analyzing the value chains visually, understanding what are the impacts of technologies and trends. And this is what we do in this chapter. And at the end of the day, we end up with a landscaping, the landscape of organizing that we are supposed to see in the coming decade. So we are also working now on tools to help organizations to situate the spaces of opportunity that they see, to understand what they are supposed to do depending on what aspects of the economy are they interested to engage with. If it's the nichification of demand and supply aggregation, so as we said before, the verticalization of marketplaces, more niche experiences, more connected experiences, or maybe on the other side, if there is an opportunity to work on connecting large-scale manufacturing or large-scale, in general, technologically intensive processes like energy or whatever, large utilities, for example, how to connect them to the digital world. And this is another space where a massive geopolitical also frictions are happening at the moment, with countries and regions developing infrastructures and bringing these infrastructures outside of their regional influence, to exert influence through deploying technology and deploying standards. And this is an insight that we have been discussing largely with Sanjit Chowdhury in our podcast that we really suggest you to catch up with. Finally, we end the paper with a final with a final note in trying to wrap all these questions into what we call a strategy for the 21st century. And there is no other way we can have a strategy for the 21st century if not massively based on provocations, because we really don't know what strategy is. We had in this moment, we had this conversation with Martin Reeves, the head of the director of BCG Henderson Institute, and it was great to talk together with Bill Fisher. I remember I was there having this conversation, and we said, we call it strategy, but because we don't have another word. We use this word because this is what we are supposed to do, but in reality, the world has changed so fast that we don't know what strategy is anymore in the 21st century. And we have recognized essentially 5 elements, 5 aspects that one needs to explore in terms of provocations to engage with a strategy for the 21st century. And one is definitely that of recognizing the inflection point. This is a massively important topic. We are talking about a moment where we are realizing that there is a structural shift, there's a structural change. That is a change between the age of markets into the age of networks. If we want to leverage on David Ronfeld's frameworks, it's really about engaging with this regime change with all of ourselves. And secondly, it's really about unbundling and rebundling the organization. The unbundling is a powerful force that is reshaping everything. So we see that on markets with marketplaces unbundling existing processes and rebundling them nearer to the customer, and like Netflix, Airbnb, all these companies have been doing for ages. And we are seeing this also inside organizations, because the same patterns are operating inside organizations. We see that, for example, when a company like Hire unbundles the organizations into micro enterprises and creates ways like through contracts, for example, through micro community contracts to rearrange these micro enterprises around the user scenarios. So this is happening outside, inside. You need to be able to rebundle more strategically and not just be there as a victim of these profound unbundling changes that we are living through. Third, we need to reclaim, as an organization, we need to reclaim technology. This is another fundamental trait of our research that we have discovered in the last year. Technology is being reintegrated. It's being reintegrated with communities. It's being reintegrated with new cultures, with different cultures. And this seems to be the only way to avoid a mindless repetition of the technological recipes that brought us into a world in crisis. That's a major point, and there are major technological innovations now that are going this direction. Let's think about the crypto, for example, the crypto infrastructure that have been developed. We have been talking with Holochain, that is another very interesting ledger-based but agent-centric technology that we really encourage you to check out. It's on our podcast, it's on our deepening box, on our website. So technology is being reintegrated. Our organization have the chance to use technology more consciously. And fourth point, entangle. So re-entangle the organization with landscape and community. This is a massively important topic that has been emerging all the time. So dealing with complexity means dealing with holds, dealing with local entities. It means essentially reducing our scope and re-entangling our organizations with more the important aspects that our theory of organizing in the 20th century has been refusing for ages. So we have been thinking about organizing as something that was completely disconnected from the landscape and the community. It seemed to be an abstract idea, and now we are discovering that in reality it isn't. So we really need to re-entangle that our organizational models into the resources that they use, the people they engage with. So lots of, for example, lots of conversations at the moment in Europe, but also outside of Europe, are about circularity, sustainability. The EU is now pushing a lot in the direction of talking about more sustainability, more care-based economies, and this is all expression of re-entangling the economy and the technology into the landscape, into the community, into the real world, I would say. Finally, last point, because I don't want to go late. The last point is re-embracing the human. And what we mean with that, essentially, just in a few words, we believe that all this new space that is emerging, it needs to be the space where we can rewrite the human development thesis. And we are really thankful to Indy Johar that in the conversations that we had leading to this white paper was very functional to help us to figure out that there is now this clash between the machine development thesis and the human development thesis. And if we don't understand that the humans in our organizations can express their whole self, then it can express their peculiarities as humans in their ingenuity into these new spaces of organizing that will be re-entangled, that will be more essential, that will be less brittle and more resilient. These spaces can be the spaces where we draw a new human development thesis through platforms and ecosystems. And it's not just about efficiencies. So that's more or less our recap on the white paper. So Stina, I'll leave it to you, right?
So now I think everyone is interested to hear how do we do all this then? Where does this leave us in terms of the tools, the new approaches that we need to develop? So if you want to say a few words on that, I will go through the more practical.
Right. Maybe I can just share a couple of words on the research priorities that are emerging from the conversation. This is again about projecting ourselves into the future. Of course, we have just released a massive 130 pages white paper that you need to read. We're looking forward to have conversations with our community to explore new possibilities. But these are the directions where we seem to be going. First of all, in terms of tools, we feel like, and sorry, I'm muting you, Stina, because I hear some noise on your side, but essentially, what we see are these three directions. First of all, prototyping these new tools in three spaces that are emerging. One is the space of positioning. So increasing the situational awareness of our adopters in integration with our platform opportunity exploration guides, integrating the insights on the four major spaces of opportunities that we have been talking about. So demand aggregation in verticals, transactions, further transaction standardization, domain-specific organizing, and global infrastructure digitalization and appification, if you want. Then, secondly, zooming in and zooming out. That's another very important aspect that we figured out during the research. We need to zoom out in time-wise, space-wise. We really need to develop ways for our adopters to abstract from the detail and zoom out in the big picture, and at some point also be able to zoom in, for example, in setting their objectives, not just in the next 6 months, but also in the next 10 years or 20 years or 100 years. So that's another point that we believe we need to explore. And finally, the idea of collective sense making. This is becoming a major space of interest. Why? For many reasons. First of all, we have been able to test it on our own, the efficiency, the capability, the potential that organizing and discussing and sense making collectively makes, the great potential that it has, but also because I must say we are increasingly looking into new constituents. We are increasingly looking into new constituents to become the protagonist of the organizing of the 21st century. It's not going to be about corporates. It's not going to be about the public. It's going to be about an economy of overlaps, as we call it. We see overlaps all over the place between the corporate, the public, the private, the citizen. And I must say, I loved when Indy Johar told me, this democratization of contracting from two parties into multiple parties is going to open us a civic economy revolution, and it's going to subvert the way we create value completely. So this is what's going to happen, and we need to look as designers, as facilitators, trainers, consultants, and contributors. I would say we need to look into this new space. We need to take also the responsibility to participate in co-creating these new constituents at the local space, at the community space, at the regional space. Lots of the future of organizing is going to be about how we collectively organize, and collective sense making is a massively important aspect. Finally, we really understand that we need to develop a more pedagogical process, since we move into the more complex, and we move into spaces where you even need different epistemic frames. You even need different ontologies. So everything becomes more complex. We need to bring it down into simple. We need to bring it down into accessible. We need to demystify all this stuff, because this is the terrain of where we develop the organization of the 21st century, and everybody is in. It's not just about corporate leaders. It's about everybody. And so we need to really make this a pedagogical process. We need to make it easier to onboard and to engage with these key issues. Finally, of course, we are really excited now to continue our research on the EO. It's a very promising space. If you are following our EO conversations, our master classes, and we're looking forward to next year to consolidate this research in the same way we did with the PDT.
Thanks. So now a couple of future appointments, and of course this announcement that I don't know if we made explicit enough, but as you know, we are launching the white paper today, and this is open source, and that is, I think we forgot to mention, because it's really in the DNA of what we do to keep things as open as we can. So you can go to the website and you will find a paper to download and enjoy reading it and dissecting it and making your questions. The next appointment that we have is on the 18th of December.
Sorry.
And if you want to receive updates for anything that comes up, and we are planning to, hold different conversations in different forums, and if you're interested also in hosting a conversation, you can reach out to us. Go to our website and subscribe to our news from the white paper, and we will send you timely, occasional updates on what we're going to do based on this first launch. And finally, we want to remind you also, now can you go back to the presentation? There are 2 more practical occasions coming up soon, in December and the next one in February. If you want to get to know the Platform Design Toolkit, and we are of course basing with a lot of the new contents that has come out from the white paper, constantly iterating our courses, also go to our website and check them out. And that's it. And we want to end also with a short note, again, thanks to the sponsors, of course, that we already got to meet, and to our amazing early adopters that have put their trust in us before we published the paper. Now they will get the fruits of their pre-purchase, let's say. So thanks a lot for that. It's been invaluable. And I think by that you want to close by showing the full video.
Just quickly, I want to show the, if you don't mind, I'm going to show the website where people can find all the information that you mentioned. So let me see. You can find here the download link for the white paper, and also an executive summary that may come handy. Here there's a bit of context, and also here you can subscribe to receive the next updates. Why is it important to subscribe for the next updates? Just because this is an early release, and I'm sure we're gonna fix it. And also, as I said, we are working on the tools. So if you don't want to lose your opportunity to receive the new tools, that again will be open source. Everything we do is open source, in Creative Commons, commercial friendly. You can use everything we do for whatever you want. You just need to attribute that. And this is something that I'm going to clarify in the coming weeks, because in the last few weeks we had some interesting conversation around this with some of our adopters. So as I said, let's check out the website, go to Thinking, white paper, new foundations, and you will find everything here, and you will find new updates to the white paper. So that's very important. On the other hand, let me get back to you.
Okay, I think Simone dropped out of the live stream. He should be back shortly. Here he comes. To stream the final. Yeah.
There was a little disconnection. As I was saying, last bit, for those of you that have been patient, I'm gonna now, after another kind thank you note for everybody that was involved in this process, including the team. I want to say thanks to the team that has been doing some terrific job, and especially also my friend Rodrigo that is listening to us, that was with me and Stina at 3 a.m. Yesterday night fixing the last details. I want to share with you a quick video. It's not an advertising. It's more like a short film that we felt we wanted to create to, I would say, tell more of the crazy conversations, the crazy interactions with thought leaders we had in the last 9 months. There are some quotes also from other podcasts. I want to thank, maybe that's a good moment, I want to thank Aperture Podcast. I want to thank Eric Thorenberg for the work he's doing on Venture Stories, A16Z Podcast, all these podcasters that are doing amazing work. Let me share with you this 8 minutes film. You can find it on our website as well, on our YouTube as well. We're going to put it on the website, but now you can enjoy the premiere if you like. So let me share it with you. Let me see if I can manage to project it. Okay, that's it. Okay, we should be ready to.
So we say goodbye.
The platform design tool.
And
Yes. Goodbye, everybody. I'm putting this online. You can watch this 8 minutes movie, and we catch up soon with our community. Thanks very much for your interest. Thanks for your support, and really looking forward to engage with you in the coming years.
Toolkit was originally created in 2013, and it has so far grown into a community of over 70,000 adopters worldwide. The Platform Design Toolkit and its 2016 companion white paper, From Business Modeling to Platform Design, have been fundamental in instigating and shaping the practice of platform design worldwide. After more than 7 years from the creation of the first platform design toolkit in 2013, the context and scope of platform ecosystem thinking have changed and grown widely. New foundations of platform ecosystem thinking are now needed.
In 2019, our work seemed to be increasingly out of context. We acknowledge that new challenges abound, new ways of thinking are needed, and that products and organizations need to be ready for a changing world. Without knowing how rapidly our basic assumptions of the world would have come to a shift in 2020, we set out to produce a comprehensive update to our unified theory of markets, organizations, and society, adding new perspectives, new tools, and expert voices from the field of platform ecosystem thinking and beyond.
The 2020 New Foundations of Platform Ecosystem Thinking. Designing products and organizations for a changing world provides key insights into the next generation of platform marketplaces, as these models continue to grow ever more pervasive.
Anything that we care about, anything that forms societies is going to be digitized, is going to be touched by the efficiency that these interfaces bring. And therefore, understanding how they work and why they work is critical to almost any job that we have, no matter where we sit in the economy. And I think while that will be, it'll play out in different places at different times, I think taking that approach and that attitude to realizing it's going to touch everything, I think is the best way to begin the experiment of trying to understand what's about to happen over the next 20 years.
As you start to be able to transact more readily in a digital context, you start to see market-based transactions where you used to have only firm-based transactions.
On top of pervasivity, the white paper highlights further trends as this pattern becomes ubiquitous. Dynamics emerge, making the case for a further rebuilding of marketplace platforms in more vertical and managed markets.
Now, as things have evolved and we've built many billion-dollar businesses using this model, people are starting to look at other industries where the marketplace model can work, which sometimes need to have more ownership and require kind of more venture capital to get up and running. Now that venture capital is available, so you can actually make an attempt at building that.
I've never seen bundles getting unbundled without them getting subsequently rebundled. Traditional bundles were built around production efficiencies. They were built around the firm boundaries. They were built around production supply chains. So they were built around the constraints of what enabled efficient production. As we move forward, because the ability to serve the demand is the key control point, you will have to rebundle in order to best serve the demand.
And to help organizations resonate with these trends, the New Foundations of Platform Ecosystem Thinking white paper also explores the next waves of organizational design, taking advantage of outside-in dynamics where the ecosystem is driving the direction, rather than a central core.
To succeed as a corporation, you need to realize that there's now more power on the outside, and you need to redeploy your organization so as to be able to harness that power from the outside, which basically means inviting individuals to lend their power to you so that you can convert that power into whatever you want to achieve.
We may think about ecosystems as an external appendage for the firm, but we can't really have a two-sided marketplace as our main business model involving thousands of other enterprises unless we change the inside of the firm too.
The next generation of organizational design, because it allows contextually unique solutions to emerge and adapt, but based on a coherent whole.
And to contextualize better the evolution of business models and organizational models, the white paper explores the backdrop of organizing in the 21st century, covering the evolving landscape of risk and governance by applying a complexity lens.
When you're facing a complex environment, as human organizations are, as living systems are in the setting of ecologies, you have to respond to forces at different scales. There's these large scale cascades that are going on all the time now, and decentralization is one of the means of building those down a bit, making them not so severe, not so large scale.
And this thesis of decentralization asks us to understand how networks work, how network governance is on the rise, and how our institutions need to rewrite to be able to respond adaptively to the tremendous governance challenges that face humanity.
And what we're finding is that the world we live in, because of globalization, connectivity, information flow, is exceedingly complex. And it moves very, very quickly and moves in ways that break down the old methods of decision making. What we need to have for a world that changes that quickly is a network decision-making system. And I think what we're seeing globally is some form of that developing.
On top of this, new technologies are emerging such as AI, blockchain, 5G. How are they transforming the landscape? How are they making new ways of creating value possible? The white paper will help readers understand impacts and the new landscape of organizing that comes out of those impacts. Certainly, the future of organizing seems challenging and a bit different from its present, and needs to look at the genuine and unique capabilities of humans to participate, to create and interact in new ways.
What we are seeing is effectively that our human development thesis has stalled. yet our machine development thesis has been escalating. And I think what we're about to enter is a new period of human development. And that's about giving us the capabilities to deal with risk, the capabilities to be creative, the capabilities to be emotionally intelligent, the capabilities to be collaborative, the capabilities to learn. It's those foundational goods that I think we're going to be focusing on.
With this white paper, we want to make our contribution towards bringing forward a shared language that will help to design new tools for what's coming next. What we're seeing are new ways of organizing value creation and distribution, where small units are empowered, helped by new technologies to pursue nimble leadership under an umbrella of architecting principles. It's about realizing human potential while enabling resilience. It's about moving from the no more into the not yet.
We're in this inflection point between no more and not yet. I think in the not yet side, the part that we can see, if we squint, many of us can anticipate how we can see these things coming together, whether they're systems of trust, decentralized like blockchain, clusters or collectives of people or ecosystems or teams coordinating in curious and interesting ways, collaboration with nature rather than having to try to overcome nature.